Hello, shit. What's good with y'all? Uh, Welcome to another episode of Welcome No Digging. You already know who it is. Host of the goddamn Ghost. Zeus welcome me in this beach. You know what I'm saying? And shit, we in another day of paradise. Yeah. For the world goddamn blow up, right? Today I was talking about these couple books, man, that have like completely shifted my reality on whatever the fuck you could think is going on right now in the world. Like, I mean, at this point, I couldn't call it. I couldn't make heads or tails of anything I hear or read these days. I can't fucking call it. I don't know about you. I don't know where you getting your information from. Whether it be the news, YouTube, I don't know. A dear friend. But the shit that we talk about, these two works, right? I have one of the books physically. It's called The Murder of Reality by Pierre Sebeck. There you go. You get your hands on this shit. Look, this is one of them books you should have in your library. Okay? You should own this book. This book right here, get this shit. And the second book or series of books is from the work of this woman named Margaret Donner. And we'll talk about that shit in conjunction with both of these. I'm gonna talk about both of them. I'm pretty much gonna read you a couple of passages from this murder reality, and I'm gonna get into the goddamn work of Margaret Donner. Cause the shit that she proposes in her books, I'm talking about money good. So like, I don't know. I think she's on some shit right now. I'll give you her background in this story from how I understood it, right? And the reason why we're talking about both of these works in conjunction is because the murder reality is about the symbolism of the snake that is embedded not only in our etymology, or I think what is the other word? The philology, the study of words, right? It's embedded in our words and our languages, but it's also embedded in every symbol, in every show, in every game. I swear to God, I've seen these snakes, dragons, reptilians, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I've seen this shit in every fucking thing that it just kind of makes you go, you know? And so, with the combination of these two particular collections of information, uh, the information I'm presenting to you is basically along the lines of if aliens are real, like really real, then dragons are probably real too. So is reptilians and jinns and all that shit. But if all of that shit is real, I pretty much align with the path that all of that shit is the same exact shit, right? Like if you talking extraterrestrials, or if you talking Ananuki, or if you talking fallen angels, which you could actually say is a dragon, and if you break down the etymology of a lot of this shit, which I'll show you in the murder reality, man, it makes you kind of fucking just wonder about this shit, right? And so when we get into Margaret Donner's work, the first thing that I ended up reading from her was The Path of the Incarnated Starseed or Angel or some shit, right? And I found a book because I had this looming question in regards to this whole idea of junk DNA, right? Like, what the fuck that is? You know, is it really junk or is it just like some unidentified, strains of shit that you have no knowledge of? And this is where you start getting to the idea of having angelic DNA, right? I don't know why this was a subject that I had a vast curiosity in, but somewhere along my curiosity, I thought my dumb ass was like, I think I'm an angel. I might be. Who knows? So I Googled it, and I find the, this bitch work. I find her shit, right? Margaret Donner. And so I read the book, and and proposes this idea of what they call the star seed and an even bigger looming idea that is known as the Orion Wars. Let me tell you about this shit. This shit is fucking bananas, right? So when you get into popular culture and you're getting into the concepts of war, right? Like the ideas like Star Wars, ideas like the Men in Black, ideas like um, it's a whole slew of shit that you could pair in with this whole extraterrestrial whatever. But when you look at you know just when the things have um, that mass theme of war within them, right? I often question the inspiration behind a lot of the most popular things that we've ever known as a collective, right? What the fuck makes something like Pokemon or some shit like Star Wars or some shit like what makes these things so polarizing, right? Where so many people can resonate with this and find entertainment or whatever out of it, right? Because you get into hermetic principles, nigga. Like attracts like. So you couldn't like some shit, you couldn't fuck with it unless there was something about it that resonates with you. You would have to definitively find yourself within the shit you fuck with, right? So when you get into the idea of the Orion Wars proposed by Margaret Donner, the idea is that there was um, this particular war of light and dark, right? That had began with, you could dare say, the first sons of men, or the first sons of God, which would have been the angels, right? So her work basically puts in perspective the whole idea of angels, Eden, and then from there, the Nephilim, the ones that made it or fell and then made it with the daughters of men, and then the giants, and then how the giants became the gods, and then how the gods became man, right? When she gets into all of this shit. But the idea was that starting from the first sons of God, the angels, think about it like the delegation of creation. So let's say the source, Allah, makes everything. And then after he makes everything, after he makes creation itself, he makes the first creature. The first creatures become the angels, right? Now, what happens with the angels is that the angels are given dominion. And before angels, you would have like, if you go with like Jungian psychology and shit, you would have like the principalities before the angels. But these are like your emotions and subtle energies and shit like that. But fuck all of that. So you get into the angels now being tasked with furthering creation, right? And so at this point, she gets into a topic about the conception of what we call a star seed and some shit I've seen before in movies but never like thought before was like an actual thing called a seeker, right? And so the idea is that um, star seeds become a part of this system of reincarnation where they're coming from um, completely different star systems and completely different ecosystems, completely different solar systems, completely different realities, right? But the ones that would be responsible for the creations of these multiple realities, these multiple different planets, these multiple different types of beings would have been the angels. So if you think about it like pyramid scheme, if you think about it like working a motherfucking 9 to 5, you have your grunt workers, right? Then you have your management, right? And then you have your upper management. And so at each level, there's a certain level of responsibility. So let's say Your workers are responsible for a particular type of station because everything works with that whole forward assembly line thing. So let's say each worker is responsible for a particular station. Let's say your management could be responsible for about three, maybe four different stations at a point in time. So let's say your grunts are worth one man. You know what I'm saying? Your managers are worth three men, and the boss is supposed to be worth five men. Ideally, you should be able to run this bitch by himself if it came to it. This is the idea, right? And so that delegation of the workload is what makes everything work the way that it's supposed to work. Where, you know what I'm saying, the lower you are, the more work you do. But this conception or this idea of delegation, if you were to take this and put it into the conception of creation, well, let's say God made angels, and then angels made everything else. And so you look at this idea, right, and then it becomes a conversation of archetypes and templates. So then you could say the first creation or the first sons of God become the angels, and the angel becomes a template, right? Now, that template gets dominion, and then they begin to create more worlds, more beings, more life. They then begin to create their own templates. And you got to think about it like this at the end of the day too. You think about just the way that evolution works. It all has to start from a single cell. And so, where does this shit come from? This shit gotta come from somewhere. I don't give a fuck what it is. If man mates and it makes man, if cat mates and it makes cat, if dog mates and it makes dog, you see, like everything has an origin point. So the origin point has to come from somewhere. So the question becomes, where does the origin point come from? Whether you want to say it's a Big Bang, whether you want to say, well, whatever the case may be, I'm not sure at this point. But according to her work, you know what I'm saying, the templates for these different types of species come from the angels, right? And so let's say that if there's a bunch of angels that got made, which one would have been the first one? The first one would have supposedly should have been motherfucking Michael, right? And again, what's interesting with angels and angel names, you get into that whole shit. All of niggas got the name L in their shit, except for like two, Metatron and Sandalphon. Them the only two niggas that are considered angels that don't have the name L in their name, and that's just very important. We'll get back to that in goddamn murder reality, but I digress. So, you know, the first angel becomes Michael, right? And even if you get into like the etymology of that name, Michael means the most like God, right? And so you get further into, her material, right? And this is Merlin's War. This is the Wisdom of the Archangels. She's got about like 4 books. You know what I'm saying? I read this shit on my fucking script, right? I didn't buy those books, but I read them, and they're fucking a doozy. And so, you know, let her story continue, and Michael is the first angel, and he's the most like God, right? And so Michael is what ends up developing the human template, right? And so Lucifer, or whoever you want to call it, right? This other being, you know what I'm saying, the light bearer, the brightest, the one that has all of the talents, and he's the one that basically can do anything, right? Is the smartest, is the brightest. For whatever reason, these two begin to have issues with each other, right? And I've told this story before, but according to her, as these two begin to have issues, and then one falls, right? The template for the goddamn dinosaurs come out, right? And so the shit that make her book so goddamn trippy is let her tell it she is a channeler, right? And the books that she wrote are all automatic writing. And so if you know what automatic writing is, great. If you don't know what it is, it basically means you didn't write it, a ghost did. Basically, it's basically what that shit means. And so you let her tell it, right? In Merlin's War, you know, the whole book is structured as an automatic writing between motherfucking Merlin and goddamn the goddamn son of the devil, Dracula. And what's crazy about this shit, you break down the word Dracula, Dracule, it means dragon, right? The Dracula means the son of a dragon. It literally means the son of a dragon. And so, yeah, apparently, this is goddamn Merlin and the devil, right? But this Merlin archetype, you know what I'm saying? It is definitively, it's an energy that has permeated in so many different stories that before it was Merlin, it was Michael. Before it was Michael, it was something else. Before it was that, it was something else. Because all of these stories have origin points. The inspiration comes from somewhere. You can't think of anything unless it's a thing somewhere. Just how it works. You can't create anything. You can only experience the act of creation. If it's one thing I know is that it's all about experience. This is all that we're ever doing. And so you can't make anything. You just experience the act of making it. It's different from the act itself. And so, at the end of the day, between Merlin or Michael making the human template and the son of Lucifer making the reptilian or the dinosaur template, right? Then they start explaining how the angels and how they had their infrastructure, their system of creating and co-creating with each other. They had rules in place where like your creations couldn't fuck with other creations. So let's say Michael made man and you make dinosaurs. Well, nigga, your dinosaurs can't be eating my man like that. You know what I'm saying? There's gotta be some type of flow or some type of something in here. And motherfuckers been playing that game because again, even when you start talking about this, as much as this shit could sound absurd, it again goes back to genetics, right? Or a particular type of genetic disposition where now at some point these niggas got competitive, angels got competitive, then some of them niggas fell, and then they proceeded to continue to graft and make their own creation, right? So these dinosaurs that the goddamn devil made that's fucking everything up. Once motherfuckers get rid of this shit, like the angel, goddamn Merlin, made a motherfucking big ass meteor ball or some shit, smashed these niggas, and that was the end of their ass. After that shit, the devil or Lucifer or Dracula or whatever the fuck this shit is, if it's at this point, this is all entertainment. I don't give a fuck if you believe this shit or not. It's just funny to talk about. You know what I'm saying? At this point, these niggas decide to start making the reptilian template, right? And then after they make the reptilian template, and so what's interesting about this template and about these angels and about the devil itself is again we get into that star seed and that seeker idea. The seekers were supposed to be co-creators. They were supposed to be architects of the universe. They were supposed to be learning the art of creation. And then after they learned this stuff, they were supposed to make their own thing. Well, apparently, nigga, the son of the devil was a student, you know what I'm saying, of these said schools, and it was led by the angel who was supposed to also be Merlin. You know what I'm saying? Michael. It was led by this nigga. And then they taught this nigga the ways. Then he made dinosaurs. And then, oh my god, I taught the wrong nigga the wrong things. And now there's a war. Right? So after they make the goddamn reptilian template, all the other angels had already started making different types of beings. So when you start getting into the idea of star seeds, of Lyrans and Syrians and Andromedans and um, what the fuck is the other shit? Palladians and shit like that. These all began to be hybrids of different types of templates. So apparently the Palladian template is supposed to be a hybrid of man and human, right? The Syrian template, them niggas is supposed to be dog men or some shit, right? Because this is where you get like motherfucking Anubis and you know what I'm saying, the Anunnaki and the Egyptians that had dog heads and shit like that. It's supposed to come from Sirius A and Sirius B. Then you get the goddamn Andromedans, and them niggas is supposed to be like the goddamn Spock niggas. These is the smart ass niggas with no emotions. Then you got the goddamn Lyrans. These niggas is motherfucking birds and cat people. You got motherfucking Arcturians. These niggas is bird niggas, but they move like the goddamn them goddamn people in the Divergent novel that like they was bland as hell, but they was disciplined as fuck. They moved like that because they had they all had like different types of societal structures, right? Like they all moved differently. They all like had their societies different, and these were all different types of beings that existed in different types of star systems. Right? And then this is the star seed shit, but this is also how I found out, the more nuanced aspects of this shit from her work, right? And so you get into that shit, and I think I'm gonna just make another video on the murder reality because this shit's already like 20 minutes. But you get into that shit, and the reptilians, the son of the devil made, Dracula, right? The goddamn template that he made, they begin to have a conquest, and they start conquering other star systems, and then thus other aliens, extraterrestrials, other types of beings, right? And again, these are all coming from the different templates of different types of angels, right? And so, at this point, they begin to capture different types of beings. But everything here worked with vibration. Just like now, everything works with vibration. So a lot of these beings, they had a vibration that was so high that you couldn't be detected by lower frequencies like conquest and desire and fear and anger. They didn't have any knowledge of these things because of the way that their societies were set up. And so with that, once these motherfuckers started taking niggas over, the word started spreading between all of these different star systems, right? And so as that began to happen, a lot of people began to develop fearful thoughts. And then they began to lower their vibration and began to drop in density, right? And a lot of these places existed in certain dimensions or certain densities. And so they begin to fall, and then they get captured. And then apparently after that, these niggas die or whatever, and they go through a certain level of reincarnation system, and then a lot of those beings end up being reborn back on Earth. Or so the story goes. But this is the idea of different types of beings just simply walking among us, right? And I'm not necessarily sure of the validity of these things. I mean, let one story circle of knowledge tell it, there are aliens. Let another circle tell it, we are the aliens, right? And then that's where the junk DNA or the angelic DNA becomes. Now, how would that work? Well, I mean, biology, there's a lot of recessive genes that are inactive and that get activated from the environment, or that get activated from your habits, that get activated from the shit you eat, that get activated from how much you in the sun, all of this different type of shit, man. But this is supposed to be the time that we're in. that type of stuff come to light, right? Now, that's just the goddamn work of Margaret Donner and the whole idea of angels creating men and then angels falling. And then the trippy thing is that, when angels fall, right, the idea of the fall becomes a fall of density, right? So you think about angels, they're supposed to have these. At this point, I've found out that angels look like motherfucking. They look like three-dimensional circles that are like now spheres. Like when I say three-dimensional circles, I mean like uh, a circle within a circle within a circle, and you can see this circle here, but then this one is spin here, and then this one is spin here, and then there's a bunch of eyes over all of them. Apparently, this is what angels look like. But before, I had this idea in my head. They niggas had wings or whatever, halos or whatever, but halos then become horns. Then wings and beings made of light, right? That was supposed to be the other deal. They were made of light. Or let Rudolf Steiner say angels were made out of light, smoke, and fire, right? Versus the human template that's made out of earth, wind, water, and fire, right? And even if you get down to the elements, most predominantly is hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. But those are not nitrogen. Maybe it's nitrogen. But just four elements within the periodic table are specifically elements ascribed to the four elements of earth, wind, water, and fire. This is how deep this shit goes. All right, and even the conception of organic material, it has to come from amino acids, and amino acids are composed of four particular fucking elements in the periodic table. It's the same ones I'm trying to describe. So this shit is fucking nuts. What if everybody's goddamn alien, and the aliens that are not necessarily from here also finna come here, and they probably always been here, and they've been putting it through all of this shit. Motherfucking tell niggas, but the shit we always get to roll with is, it's a movie, it's a video game, it's a motherfucking TV show. I fucking can't call it. I didn't read too much shit. So here's my, what should we call it? This is the blue pill we gave you today. Purple pills, bitch. See y'all later, man.